Hey everyone, welcome to First Fill Whiskey. Today's going to be a pretty special live stream. Thanks to everyone coming in. I'm taking over for Roy for the vPub time, the great time for vPub. So already seen so many of you are already in. It's quite nice to actually be in the Northern Hemisphere time. So I am up, I'm having coffee, and tonight we are talking about meaningful drams. It's been something I've been thinking a lot about recently. My mother passed away a few weeks ago, so this is something that whiskies are very, there's something about special drams and something more to whiskey. Oh man, I didn't think I'd be like this, but yeah, can everyone hear? I don't have grids on, do I? So yeah, I think I've been thinking a lot about, whiskey and what it is. There's been a lot of pushback out there with, alcohol and stuff, and there's some serious dangers to it and that sort of thing. So it is something that, you do have to know how to, manage consumption, which is what brought me to whiskey in the first place. It is that quality over quantity. It is about those moments you share with other people. And, so we're going to talk a lot about that, and I'm going to talk about probably the 5 most meaningful drams that I've had. But what I'd love to hear from you is, what are some of the drams that you have enjoyed, some that you share special moments, that you've had special moments with people, with friends, or maybe it's just a good memory, you're on a trip, or maybe it's something that's just like a habit. Like I had some wonderful messages on Discord where a lot of people reached out and talked about, all the special memories they have with people, and some of them are just quite simple, like just every time they saw their mum or dad, that there would be a single dram they'd have, which is really cool to see. So anyway, I'll say a quick hello to the chat. Thank you everyone for coming in, and thank you. Good to have you all in. This is great. It's good to have all the Barflies in. I can even see some slappers are in, and a lot of the First Fill fam are in here as well. So that's really cool to see. Hey, Roy, is this? Now let's just check on my technology. Roy is in. Hello, looking awake. I am on my coffee. Maybe we can vote on, it is morning. So I'm not going to have too much whiskey today, but maybe we can vote on me having a little sip of one of these. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into some of these drams. Charlie MacLean said to me, he said, the best time to drink whiskey is in the morning. It's when you can, your senses are more elevated. I don't know if that's true, but he told me that. So I haven't read in 20 books. How's Wild is in? Good to see you, mate. Sugar Kitty is in. He said meow. Meow to you too. Simon is in from New Zealand. So good to have some Kiwis in too. Danny is in. Jean, Ted Brooks. Friends over for my birthday. Won't tell which one, but maybe you can guess. I did a tasting of all 3 gems, all distilled in my birthday. 45-year-old Bunnahabhain, 35-year-old Longmorn, 25-year-old Glenfarclas. Wow. That it sounds like a night. Hey, me. Good to see you. Yeah, I'm doing okay. It's been a quite a hectic thing. So my mum, she was good. She was, it was a brain aneurysm. So it was very suddenly. It was she died very sort of quick. So it's quite hard to say goodbye. But it's been quite a shock these last 3 weeks. There've been lots on. So the channel has sort of taken a little bit of a back step. But at the same time, it's been good because it's something that I can do in my own time and go at my own pace. And so in some ways, I've had to turn down a lot of my professional work. But the great thing about this channel is that it's up to me. I'm my own boss. So I just have to ask myself, I'm like, hey, Phil, can I have the day off? And I'm like, okay, you can have the day off, so it's a little bit easier, that sort of stuff, especially now, with patrons, and I've had some sponsors which have been really good recently. So do click on those links if you see sponsorships. They're the ones helping keep the channel. Also tonight I have turned off ads. So you might have noticed there's no ads on this. I want to make it like the vPub. There's no ads on the vPub. It's supported by Barflies, supported by people who are members, and supported by patrons. But really, this is not about money. This is about getting together, sharing drams, talking about what's meaningful. Let's just... My chat is frozen. There we are. Oh, Jeff said, going to be a powerful pub tonight, raising a glass to you and yours, pal. Thank you, Jeff. That was some special drams we had. That was, oh, what was that? Was it there's some crazy drams we had that night at the IWC. And that's, actually that Redbreast, I mean, that would be one I'll be opening tonight. That's, was it 27-year-old Redbreast we had at Whisky Exchange when Jeff and I did that video together. Thank you, everyone. There's a lot of messages. It's really, I probably don't have time to read these all out. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Drummond, Holland, everybody. Reb, Danny, there's so many. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Punda said, my most meaningful dram is one I haven't drunk yet. I bought a 40-year-old Burner Hubbard from Signatory, put it in a barrel in 1975, the year my friends were born. That is so good. See, that's the sort of stuff I really like. So I am going to clear these. Double espresso, Papa. You must be Southern Hemisphere too, right? Roy said, here's your ad review. Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Roy. Appreciate that. That really means a lot. That really means a lot. I'm going to give you a little heart. There you go. Yeah, so we're talking about, what whiskies are meaningful. And I think there's a lot more to whiskey. And so recently, my uncle's got a bunch of people together before my mum passed away, and he's in his 50s. And he has a bunch of other people who are friends of his who are also in their 50s, and they have this like club, and they do exercise together, and they kind of look out for each other. And I thought, this is actually really good, especially for a lot of men who keep to themselves or can isolate, to have a bunch of friends around you that kind of look after each other and look out for each other. And I think it's a big thing. And what I find it quite hard to get, especially my, male friends, to get them in a room together and talk about things, except when it's around whiskey. I don't know what it is. It's just like everyone opens up, and there's like this special kind of unity. You're talking about the drams, you're going through it, but then you're talking about family and your work and what's going on. And there's something really to that. There's this book. I've been trying to get this guy. I really want to do a whole episode on this. There's this book by Edward Slingenland. I don't know if you know it. Called Drunk. And he sort of asked the question, like, why is this drink we're having, which is basically a poison, cask strength whiskey you could run on some vehicles on. Why in every culture and civilization, cultures that never talked to each other for thousands of years, why they always come around a thing? Like in Fiji, they have kava, and, in China, they'll have baijiu, and obviously Scotland, you got single malt whiskey. And I think a big part is that it does lessen that cortex a little bit, and you are more open to being vulnerable and kind of, and building. I think about the friends I've made as often as around that beer. And I think when I first got into whiskey, when I lived in London, it was, those sitting around with the fire on midwinter, and there's just something so nice about it. There's no TV on, no phones on. You're just sitting there with good friends and drinking drams, and there's just something so special about that. It's this weird thing though, right? It's a bit like a kitchen knife. It can be used for bad, or it can be used for good. And with all this pushback against alcohol recently, I think there is still a place, and especially a lot of people who are, more isolated and with a lot of anxiety and stuff, and it's something I've kind of thought about more and more in the last few weeks, the importance of friends, the importance of friendships, and it could be other things like sport, but there's something about getting a bunch of friends around, and you're like, let's go top shelf, let's do something really special. And it's really hard to beat that, I think. And you're taking your time, you're going slow, you're not doing shots, you're respecting it, you're respecting each other, you're respecting the whiskey. And there was lots of very nice messages. Whiskey Liberation said, most memorable dram for me was Hellions at my first GWF in the Single Malt Whiskey Society, a 9-year-old Ardmore, but people I was with really made it. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Now, I'm just going to double check I am in sync, because I know this is a bit... Hello. Because this is often an issue. I hope that is. Yeah, so, all right, let's jump into the first dram. So I'm going to talk about the first dram tonight. So my mother, so I think a big part of this channel, who I am, that my mother was a real, like, adventurer. She sort of, she would always, like, do stuff that was outside the box. Like, she was a music teacher, which taught me that sense of rhythm and storytelling and communicating through, she was a very good piano player. And I don't play the piano. Well, I did try, but I was no good at it. But in a weird way, video sort of become my sort of piano in a way. I like communicating stuff through that. And she was also actually Northern Irish. She was born in Northern Ireland. She moved to New Zealand when she was 6. They came on a boat. This is what's wild. It took 6 weeks on a boat. There's no phone or anything, no text messages. You just hop on a boat and you come to the other side of the world, which is kind of wild. A wee bit quiet. Oh yeah, let's just turn it up a little bit. And let's go. Okay, is that better? Hello, 1, 2, 3. If I just go to, let's go turn up my volume just a little tiny bit. Hello. Okay, I think that might be better. Is that peaking? Yeah, which is kind of wild. So, and she was very proud of herself being Northern Irish, and that's part of the reason I lived in London. If you know my story, I was in London between 2015 and 2018. It's where I got into whiskey because I had a British passport, and my wife came over with me, and so we're going to have a Northern Irish whiskey first. That's going to be my first dram. I don't know if you have any guesses for it. This is one I've never had before, but well, I mean I've tried it, but one that I hadn't heard of before. I got it a while ago. I didn't really think much of it, but I guess it means a little bit more now. So if we go to DramCam, it is this one's here. The McConnell's is an Irish whiskey and sherry cask, and it is a 5-year-old bottled at 46%. What's really interesting about this is that it spells whiskey with no E, and they even talk about it here. Like there's no E in it, because that's actually how they traditionally did. This is the thing about rules, right? Like whenever you say a rule, there's just always exceptions. And this is a Belfast whiskey. Yeah, so that's just a really interesting dram. It's only 5 years old, but I've been enjoying it. I think it's been quite interesting. And so I think meaning with whiskies can come from not just who you're with, but also where it's from, right? And so I think this whiskey here sort of representing, it's similar to like if you go have a Guinness in Dublin, or if you go have, Stein in Germany or whatever. And it's kind of that similar sort of stuff. Jason said, yeah, he's had the McDonald's Sherry Cask and quite enjoy it. Thank you, Whiskey Lover Society, for your virtual dram. Really appreciate it. I'm going to raise this coffee to you. Thank you, Gleehem, for becoming a new member. Amy said, I'm going to try the McConnell's distillery in 2 weeks as I'm going to Belfast. And to be honest, I don't know much about it, but it sounds like it's in the centre of Belfast. It's come back into it. Greg said, late to the party, never what did I miss on my laptop, but we'll try and follow. Thank you, Greg. Good to have you in. So many Barflies are in tonight. Meaning all about flavour and places. Singleton 14, 2023 cask on the NC 500 in Scotland. Best of my life. That is great. That is awesome. Here we go. we've got Novosin. You can help explain this. McConnell's 5-year-old blend, ex-bourbon and sherry finish. McConnell's decided not to add the E into whiskey because traditionally they never had it. Original distillery closed in the early 20th century. Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed the dram. So let's, the next dram I was kind of thinking of, I mean, so it was kind of between this and the Bushmills. I wanted something that sort of, you know, that would remind me of Mum. And, you know, it was just such a big part of who she was. And she'd always talk about her Northern, and it was quite funny. We'd go to the Northern Islands and her accent would come back. And then New Zealand, she'd be having a New Zealand accent. It would just kind of switch. The next dram, so I'm going to go back to that camera. Yes, there was the Bushmills too, but I think something known that's like in the centre of Belfast, and 46%. I really like what that whiskey is, what that represents. The next ones that would be meaningful is probably the whiskey that's got me into whiskey, and it is a whiskey that it's really kind of opened up, and this is more on that flavour side. Like, what was a whiskey that's where the flavours just, when I had it, and there are those ones that kind of blow your mind. You're just like, wow, is this what whiskey can be? So I was getting into whiskey. I started watching like Ralphie videos back in 2016 or 17 or something. And this one review he gave sort of very high praise, which is this next dram. So I bought it, and when I had that, I was just like, I think that's kind of when I went down the rabbit hole. I was like, wow. And we're there and with friends around the lounge. And yeah, and it was this here. It was an older bottle back then. It is the Port Charlotte Isla Barley. This is the 2012 one. I think back in the day, 2009 or something. I don't know whether the Isla, because I feel like the recent ones, most of them do Isla Barley now. I sort of had mixed. I'd love to hear what you guys in the chat say about that, about if they're still doing that Isla Barley range or if it's all just now within the Port Charlotte range. But back then I really found the Isla Barley had a lot more of this kind of farmy, biscuity cereal notes, more so than the normal Port Charlottes. And I find a little bit on this. I don't know if it's placebo though. Thank you, Kodja, for your virtual dram. Really appreciate it. That really means a lot. Good to have you here. So yeah, this whiskey just got me down the rabbit hole. When I had this, I was just like, there is something seriously to this. I don't know if you know, because I had my first dram. So there's kind of like my gateway sort of intro drams, like the Glenlivet 12, the Auchentoshan 12, Lefroy 10. And I was like, oh, there's something to whiskey. But I think when I got this bottle, it was like, there's something to whiskey, you know? It just sort of turned everything up. So we are going to, now I want to do another poll. So let's just have a look at that poll now. And if I end that poll, how's that going to come up? It's a poll. Yes, a lot of you said flavour and the people you're with is some of the most important things. I'm just going to do another poll, and we're going to choose Actually, let's go back. Let's go through more of the whiskies, then we'll choose which one I will go through in a little bit more detail. So the next dram, I think for me, is something, also a memory. This is an occasion, part of travel. Let's go back to the main camera. It's about, you know, when I was in Iceland, I've talked about this before too. I was with one of my good friends, and we hired this Airbnb. We were sort of, there's 4 of us. We were there with both our wives, and we cooked up this, his wife cooked up this really nice meal, and then in the evening we walked outside and we sat on these chairs and we watched the Northern Lights, and we brought over some drams with us. And some of you might know this one. It is still something I have, and there's something about memory and association. So if you, and this might be interesting, I don't know if you tactfully, you know, you can kind of use placebos to your advantage. You can go, you know, if you have a whiskey in a really special place, if you don't have it much after that, then when you do have it, it takes you back to that place. So this one here is, Burnhaven 12. It actually, when I was clearing out my studio, I had a little bit left of the Burnhaven cask strength. It was like a tiny bit, so I actually ended up putting it into this 12. It's got a bit dusty. Just fantastic dram. Good go-to. So we were sitting there having the Burnhaven 12, and it was absolutely incredible. Such a good memory. Such a it just. I mean, what more can I say? There's photos on my like personal photography. It's when I was into photography and stuff, and sitting there having a whiskey. It's freezing cold. You got a puffer jacket on, and you're having a Burnhaven. Was just incredible. Let's go back to the main camera. So yeah, what else have you guys been enjoying? I actually got some really good stories from the Discord. Some people, Navok mentioned he had where is it? So we had a few comments from the Discord already that people enjoyed. And Whispers said the Glendronach Parliament 21, one of the old bottlings, where it was maybe 26-year-old in the bottle, getting to try this with our club, sitting outside with a fire and good friends and getting blown away at the taste and profile. So that was Whispers on Discord said that about a whiskey that means something to him. Miles said, I saved my first Tamji 12 to open after my daughter was born, and every time I come back to it, I think of those first few crazy days back at home after hospital. So this is really interesting side of whiskey. Yeah, I think that's what I kind of wanted to talk about tonight is, in my reviews and stuff, it's really easy to get kind of like ABV, flavour, natural colour, unchill filtered, this, and look at the cask profiles. But really, if we were honest with ourselves, there's just so much more than that. The biggest story about whiskey, who we're with, and why we even have it. It's like, you can have the most mechanically perfect whiskey, but I would take an average whiskey with good friends over an amazing whiskey by myself, and I mean, more in this last few weeks, I've definitely appreciated that a lot more. And Raven said, he said, the first whiskey I enjoyed and shared with my mother was Lafroy quarter cask. Was very anti-alcohol before, but yeah, now I'm here. So since 2021, every September, me and my mother have a quarter cask together. That's really cool. That's really nice. I love that sort of stuff. It's sort of like bringing tradition back, Dave said Glen Scotia 15 was my rabbit hole dram. After that, no turning back. White Peak Distillery Wireworks Bourbon is another one. It's from my home region, the UK, and I picked it up when I visited for my nana's funeral. It's a taste of home and the memories attached to my grandparents. That's really great. Yeah, you guys all wrote such special messages. And yeah, Dominion said, I do challenge yours sometimes about memories and the people tied to it. I think it is always that. Reflecting, I'm not sure I can meaningfully narrow it down because so many memories are flooding at the moment. Some perhaps more vivid and personal than others, but all meaningful in their way. All the most meaningful drams are about connection, community, and so on. The moment when you can raise a glass and in unison say, wow, that's good. Good can mean flavour, but it can also mean this is a moment in time right here, right now. This is good. That is an amazing point. I wish I could bring up my Discord comments here for you guys to read that. This is all in the fresh first fill vids if you guys want to go read more comments, what everyone wrote on the Discord. And yeah, so let's move on to the next dram. So obviously you guys probably will know this next one. I think last year was quite big for me, and where I got to meet kind of a hero of mine, Charlie MacLean. And this is quite a simple whiskey. It's not like this is the thing as well, like whiskey is not about the best of the best. It's about those memories attached. But to be fair, this is still a good whiskey. It's not going to put you off. It's a really amazing, it's a blend of two good distilleries. I kind of wish I went and bought the one from Royal Mile that they did the MacLean brothers. For those who don't know, Charlie MacLean's has 3 sons, and they're actually in the Pacific right now, rowing across, and they've been interviewing all these like big like actors and stuff, and it's like a 150-day journey. We did a whole interview about that, and they basically doing some collaborations with, I think, Rase, Ardnamurchan, and who was the other one? Glen Scotia, where they've released these kind of different bottles. But the bottle really for me is this here, MacLean's Nose. To be sitting there last year, and I think the Whiskey Diary would agree. We were both sitting there, and I don't know if you watched that video, you guys. We're sitting in the fire's on, and Charlie MacLean's there, and we're talking about whiskey, and it was such a amazing vibe to sit there and MacLean's Nose and talk about it and stuff. It's just a beautiful dram. And what I love is that it's, you know, accessible, it's a good price, and it's something that to be there, it was just such a surreal experience to be there in Edinburgh in Charlie MacLean's lounge. This guy he's communicated whiskey his whole life very well, like such an inspirational person, written 20 books. And I'm there just like sitting on the couch with him. It's just the most wild thing. And Ben was there too from Good Juice. It used to be called Whiskey Diary. Yes, and I saw you, Amy, there. That was like just before. That was, yeah. What a special moment that was. Jason said, I have a mum and whiskey moment too. My mum drank JW Black in the 80s, so I tracked one down to auction we shared a couple of years ago. That is really cool to hear, Jason. I love that. And Greg said, honestly, I struggle to mention only 5 whiskies among all the ones I've tried in the last 27 years, but it is true that some are special for very personal reasons, not necessarily the best ones. Yeah, exactly. If I go clear that. Is anyone, if I missed any messages... yeah, lots of people chatting there. It's great to see you guys all in. So the next whiskey for me that is special is this is one that reminds me of Mum. Mum was a florist. She loved a side hustle. Mum, you know, she had a normal job, but she was always doing side hustle. She ran a jewelry business on the side. She did and one of the big things she did was a floristry business on the side. So I think a lot of, because, you know, a lot of people, I don't know if you're the same, Roy or Jeff, watching. Sometimes you tell people, you're like, I've got a YouTube channel, and people kind of have a second look because they're like, you what? They don't quite understand. Like, you run a YouTube channel? It's just so bizarre. It's just a really bizarre job, right? It's just a really strange thing. And it's not something I probably would have done without Mum having the attitude of just like, yeah, just give it a go. Just see what happens, you know? Like, what if I, you know, when I first started out, I was like, I had super imposter syndrome. It's like, I don't know heaps about whiskey, you know, and she would always be like, just give it a go. Just give, you know, you get better. And I just love that kind of, you know, that mindset of just, you know, she really lived life. Her sister at the funeral said that, you know, it was capital L life, you know, which is really, just really embraced it. And so that's something I've wanted to do. Like when you're doing you know, like doing a YouTube channel is a weird job. It's a weird thing. This whole thing, like I'm talking to a bunch of you and I've met so many of you. But, you know, in high school, like when you're talking about what you want to do when you grow up, this is not really on the cards, right? So this whiskey here is actually from, this is a sample. Actually, there might be a better version of this. So one of my mum's side hustles was flowers. She loved flowers, and so this whiskey here reminds me of her. And because I was sort of thinking, like, every time I have it, it makes me think about flowers and her. And so what is the whiskey on the shelf that is the most floral? You know, something that's beautiful and complex and interesting. The price these days is pretty high. So it's not one I sort of recommend people go out and get. There's probably other ones if you want another sherry cask whiskey and stuff. But in terms of like a floral whiskey, it is this one here, the Kadrona sherry cask. Also, in the last year, she finally got a New Zealand passport. So it's something about New Zealand. And any of you who know me, if you come around, I'll pour your dram if you want to try it. Very floral whiskey. It almost has this, almost like a perfume. It reminds me of when she'd be in the lounge and like, cutting flowers and making these bouquets and stuff. And I think of any whiskey I've got, this is the most floral of any of them. Again, we're not talking about price here, so we won't talk about that here. But in terms of just a very floral whiskey, I'd love to hear what you guys think is a good floral whiskey, what you guys like. And let's just see. I love your videos where you grab Pokemon cards. I don't know. That is big conversation. I don't know what that was about. I think I clicked on the wrong thing. Roy said, try being my age and admitting you have a YouTube channel. Fun. It must be really fun. I guess I've started saying whiskey communicator. I think that's sort of my thing. It's just sort of the modern day. Yes, it is hard to. Now, let's go on to some of my final whiskies. This one here is a gift someone gave me in the last few weeks. A really good friend, and one that has a really nice caramel note. And probably one of the best whiskies, because he said to me is like, wine casks is always very hit and miss. It's something I talked a lot about on this channel, that wine casks are a bit kind of, some are good, some are bad. And some can be very astringent and stuff. Even from this distillery, I've had a few kind of not that great bottles. But this one here, I think, is one of the best. And he bought this for me in the last few weeks. So it's very special. And a real surprise to how much I've enjoyed it. So if we go dram cam, it is this one here, the Starwood Octave Barrels. This one is aged in Barossa, finished in Barossa Shiraz. So if any one of you knows about red wine or Australian wine, the Barossa Valley is kind of like the pinnacle. It's probably similar to what we have in Central Otago, in New Zealand with Pinot Noir. Like, if you're really into wine, this is one of the regions you'll know about. And it's 48%, just a really nice whiskey, and it's some really nice caramel. They've kind of done the balance right. And I know, red wine casks are not for everyone, but there's something about this that it has that little bit of spicy caramel notes. So it's been really interesting, really nice to sip on that. So thank you, Matt, for giving me that bottle. Really appreciate that. There's also this here. I had another friend fly over who had a similar thing with his mother, and we were sharing one of these little drams. This is the Hullers Road 22-year-old American Oak. So I think it's one of the oldest Australian whiskies, and he's getting married soon, so we're going to share that next time I see him over in Melbourne. Now I'm going to make a poll, so let's have some whiskey. Let's do the poll. How do we do? Let's go start a poll. Right. So which one do you want to sip? Which one do you want me to go through more on? We have the Starwood Octave. We have the Isla Barley Port Charlotte. We have the Boona 12. And we have the McConnell's Irish whiskey with no E. Can I only do 4 options? Okay, let's do that. Is that working? Okay, so you guys can now vote on the whiskey I'm going to have in the morning. What you think you'd like me to talk a little bit more about. So that poll's running now, so go vote on that. If you haven't yet, give the video a like, subscribe, but also subscribe to Roy. I think he is back next week. Make sure you go check out his recycled reviews after you watch this video. I think he's just dropped that. Hal said, love the Starwood Fortis. Oh, right. Yeah, that is good. I'm pretty sure I tried that at Dramfest. Reb said, not too keen on Shiraz. I prefer Syrah. Yeah. He's for those who know, they're the same thing. Floral. I'll throw my Glen Gary 24 Cadenhead, a beauty. Of course, if no money involved, the Black Bowmore first release. I'll never forget that. Boy, that sounds like a great whiskey. I need to come over to your house. So what have we got on the poll? It looks like we are going to. I'll give you another minute to vote, and then let's talk about one of these whiskies. So what's it? How's everyone going? This is really interesting. Should I do more morning kind of live streams? And so the other thing I was going to talk about is, I've been thinking a lot about, what are those whiskies that you can bring tradition back in? Like what, when you're meeting with certain friends, is there a certain dram that can become your thing? Because you can kind of create memories. Like, are there drams that maybe a Christmas coming up that might become your Christmas one? Or maybe you only see one of your brothers every sort of, maybe you live in different countries. There's a whiskey. Like, what are the things that in your life you can not just focus on the ABV, the stats and the flavor, but also something that's going to build memories? One of the things is about, you can invest in money, but you can also invest in family, friends, memories, and more I've seen that kind of a much clearer light in the last 3 weeks about what does it mean to invest in kind of the future and family and friends and creating those special memories. So, what whiskies that are not now are going to be those special kind of whiskies for you. So the poll came out as the Isla Barley. So let's have a little dram of that. Really nice special whiskey. Have any of you had the Isla Barley? So for those who don't know much about Port Charlotte, is from Isla. It was probably my favourite distillery up until that, and Kilhoman are probably my two go-tos, although Ardnahoe is fantastic. I don't know if any of you have had Ardnahoe. And so the Isla Barley is all about they have they use barley from the farms around them. So there's a bit of kind of like discussion about how much does barley play into the flavour of a whiskey, right? Because it is a bit different to, say, beer, which doesn't have a distillation process. So like you have all these things that, you have the barley, then you malt the barley, then you put it into the mash tun, then you get fermentation, distillation, aging in casks. So how much of a percent difference of flavour is it for whiskey? See, I'd say for wine, between grape varieties, there's a huge difference. But in barley, I definitely think it's a lot less within whiskey. But at the same time, I do think there is some differences, especially when you see distilleries where they will do a couple of different barley types. I'd say it's like still overall, I think it's really distillation and the cask. That's almost like 80% of the flavour. And then all those little things, fermentation times and barley types, those are all the kind of the little notes in the background. That's but that's my opinion. I'm no distiller. Raven said the bog standard Port Charlotte 10 is mere, but it has some great potential when they leave it affordable. Yeah, and I prefer this Isla Barley. There's something a little bit, let's just go on the nose. Oh, it's so good. Right here being winter in New Zealand, the last kind of couple of weeks of winter, oh man, it goes down well. Getting a lot of those, your classic Port Charlotte. I always get bacon on Port Charlotte. They're like the sort of meaty side, but it's not the kind of like your steaks and stuff. It's more like your bacon. It's and then your classic kind of your smoke, bonfire, salty, and then like this sort of this malty undertone, biscuity notes with a little bit of lemon zest. And almost like these lemon, what was it? These like little crackers we used to have. This little yellow bit in the middle. It's almost like a lemon sort of like biscuit thing we used to have. It's delicious. I really like it. I love the Port Charlotte. I'm a huge fan. Prices can be a bit up and down recently. Roy said, I think modern whiskey is starting to demonstrate how only super active shouty casks overpower. So much to do with spirit is flavour packed, if we let it be so. Yeah, that's right. And I think actually maybe the one I should have talked about was Kadrona's bourbon cask one, which is very different, and I actually really enjoyed as well. I'd love to, if you ever come over here, Roy, I got a lot of whiskies I'd love to give you that are not the shouty New World casks, and see what you think of them. But yeah, I think a lot of the time it is a lot more shouty with those New World casks because of the climate. But also just because it's such a recent thing. Like, it's only recently some of these new distilleries around the world have opened up that we don't really have many of these older ones, which is why I'm really excited to try what a 22-year-old Huller's Road would be like. So, Rusty said, if you had to pick only peated whiskies or non-peated for the rest of your life, what would be your choice? I'd probably go unpeated, probably, because, well, I mean, there are other versions of smoking whiskey. You can use Manuka smoke. There are other different ways to getting smoke into it. You can use heavily charred barrels and stuff. Like, there's other things, and I think I like the diversity, exploring flavors. That's more kind of my thing. But it also, peated whiskey is what got me into it. I can't tell you how much I would love to visit NZ, anywhere south of the equator, but mostly NZ. Definitely. Well, you're very welcome here. Come over here. I'm going to soon do some tastings once I get through all this. Yeah, there's a lot of errands. Oh my goodness. I didn't realize I'd be doing. But thank you so much, all you guys who've joined today. Thank you for your virtual drams. Go watch Roy's video. Thank you, Roy, for letting me take over the vPub tonight. It's been really special. It's been so great to enjoy these drams, talk about these drams, and hear about the drams that you've liked too. If you want to hear about what a bunch of other people enjoyed, go over to Discord, what everyone wrote about those special moments and drams they enjoyed. And yeah, it just shows that whiskey is more than just a scoreboard. It's the bottles that remind us of who we are, who we love, and where we've been. So to that, thank you, Roy. Thank you, Barflies. Thank you, Slappers. Thank you, the Firstville fam. I raised this to you, and I raised this to my mum in memory of her. So yeah, appreciate you all, and I'll see you soon. More videos on the way, more live streams, and have a great evening. Share and enjoy. That's the main thing, right? Go do that. Share your whiskey. Cheers, everyone.